Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video because I am really just very happy to introduce this eyeshadow palette to you and especially the person behind it. So today we're going to do a demo at first impressions and I'm going to throw in a couple of thoughts in the end of the video on the Stilazzi eyeshadow palette in Darkroom, which has been done in collaboration with Jordan Liberty. Now, before I introduce you to the star of the video, the eyeshadow palette, and show you how she looks like on the inside in case you haven't seen her already, let me just quickly tell you about Jordan because he is the main drive, the main motivation for me personally to get this palette. Jordan Liberty is a makeup artist and a photographer, and I first came across his work a couple of years ago, and I think the reason I followed him was one particular image from the campaign for the ABH Moonchild Glow Kit. I'm going to insert the image now in the video so you can see what I'm referring to, and ever since I have really enjoyed following Jordan's work because there is something very clean, very beautiful about his style of makeup and photography, because he does his own photography, and I find the way he plays with shadow and light to be so incredibly unique, so incredibly beautiful. Additionally to being a very talented makeup artist and photographer, Jordan strikes me as a wonderful human being. He gives the impression of a very kind, very modest person who cherishes being professional above all else, because like a lot of makeup artists nowadays, he is also an influencer, and he has actually done quite a lot of campaigns with a lot of popular makeup brands. You have probably come across his work, but you never quite realized that it was him. He's done work for ABH, like I mentioned. He's done quite a few campaigns with Urban Decay. I've also seen his work with Dose of Colors, with the Desi and Katie collab. I'm pretty sure he's also done work for Pat McGrath, and that is probably the biggest testament to his skills and his professionalism that so many brands approach him to do their campaigns. On top of everything else, he's not a once but twice cancer survivor, and he's very young. Guys, Jordan is very young. I don't believe he's much older than I am. I'm 36 years old and he might even be younger than I am, and because he has shown us his journey, especially the second time around for beating cancer on Instagram, I can tell you he did that with a lot of grace, with a lot of humor, with a lot of positivity, and I'm sure he had very down moments, but even in his down moments he never let anyone or the cancer take the best out of him, and I truly admire that. So I think he's a beautiful human being inside out. I think he's incredibly talented, and let me tell you, I don't buy influencer collabs ever. So I have never felt so far compelled to buy a makeup product just solely because of the person behind it, because I really want to support the person behind it. I know it's really stupid to buy something just because you want to support somebody. I do have to say, I do enjoy the eyeshadow palette. Was it something that I was going to purchase if it wasn't for Jordan's name behind it? Probably not. But in a beauty influencer world driven by drama and so much unpleasantness, I just felt like buying this eyeshadow palette was my way of saying, you know what? I want to support someone talented, someone professional, someone who never inserts themselves into drama and who just does their job well. But aside from that, I also think it's a beautiful eyeshadow palette. So let me show you the eyeshadow palette. So this is the Darkroom and Stilazzi eyeshadow palette. This is how the palette looks like on the inside. We are going to do swatches in the end of the video. I just wanted to show you the color story a little bit. So the brand behind this collab is Stilazzi, and I am not very familiar with this brand. To this day I don't know much about them, and I don't own anything else from them. They are based in the US, and I know Jordan uses their products a lot, which is probably why they did a collab together. The palette retails for $39, but I was able to get it with a 25% off code that I found online when I was searching for reviews of the palette. I came across a channel from a girl named Kelsey, and she mentioned she had a code with Stilazzi, so I used that. I am going to leave the code for you in the description box below, just in case you're interested in purchasing this palette, as well as the website of Stilazzi. So this palette was released around the beginning of July. It sold out the first time around, and then they did a restock, and I bought the palette upon restock. It was shipped very quickly. It was no problem at all. I have to say the shipping was ridiculously expensive. For an international person like myself, the shipping was $22 or something of the sort, which in my book is ridiculously expensive. It would normally be something that would immediately turn me off of a purchase, and I would not have gone through with it if it wasn't Jordan's name behind the palette. Additionally to that, because I live in the Netherlands, everything above 22 euros goes through import and customs taxes, so I knew that I would have to pay even more for the palette. So I just wanted to let you know that I broke a lot of my rules in terms of purchasing makeup from across the ocean because of Jordan. So the eyeshadow palette comes with 18 eyeshadows, as you can see over here, and what I have heard Jordan say himself is that while at first glance this eyeshadow palette looks like it has a lot of color to it, it actually is firmly grounded, and I quote, is firmly grounded in neutrals, because neutrals is what he does most days. We are going to talk a little bit about the different finishes, and I'm going to do the swatches for you in the end of the video, but I just wanted to show you the overall layout of the palette. Once the palette was shipped, it took about a week for it to arrive to me, and I must say I was a little bit worried once I received it, because it basically came in an envelope wrapped once with bubble wrap paper, so I was almost completely sure that when I open it, it will have broken down completely. That wasn't the case, so everything arrived to me in pristine condition. Then the actual eyeshadow palette comes in a little white sleeve like this. The actual palette is black, and it has these little blue wavy things across it. It's not the most glitzy packaging, but at the same time I do find it very classy and very stylish, and I think it's very much on brand with Jordan himself. So I'm going to leave you now with the demo, and then I'm going to come back to show you the swatches and tell you my overall, you know, thoughts about the color story and the eyeshadows and all of that spiel in the end of the video. But I just wanted to take the opportunity in the intro part to really mostly focus on talking about Jordan himself. So now I'm going to leave you with the demo for this super smoky green eye look. Okay guys, there is so much choice, I don't really know what I want to do. What do you guys think? Tell me, what should I do? Sorry, can't hear you. What do you say? Green. I should do a green look. I don't really use green much on my channel, but you know what? I'll indulge. If you want green, I'll deliver. I have already primed my eyelids, and I'm going to get things started with this shade over here, which is called Solar, which is a very light matte peachy pink shade, and I'm going to put that through my crease and a bit above my crease as a transition for the darker green that I'm going to put down later. So this one is looking quite a lot as my skin tone at the moment, so it's not really showing up very much. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to mix in a somewhat darker color with that, and for that I'm going to dip into this shade here, which is a slightly deeper peach, and let's see whether that shows up. So that light pink shade is very nice, but it is very much similar to my own skin tone at the moment, so it's not really showing up very well, and I won't be able to use it as a brow bone highlight either because it will be too dark for that. But I think the combination of the two shades is working out just fine. Yesterday when I was swatching these shades, they felt and applied really beautifully. They're very soft, very creamy, very pigmented without being patchy. I really liked the matte formula upon swatching, that is. You can see, now I'm going to grab a somewhat stiffer pencil crease type of brush, and I'm going to go into this gorgeous shade over here, which is called Fathom, and it is a dark green teal. This applied absolutely beautifully upon a swatch, so I'm really curious how it's going to apply. And I'm going to apply this all over my lid, guys. I just want to see how this looks all over the lid. I'm probably going to switch to a more small blending type of brush for my crease. I just want to put down the color on my lid first, and then start blending it into the crease together with the peachy matte. This is applying really nicely, and it would make such a beautiful, like, matte green smoky eye. Alright, now I'm going to switch to a smaller blending brush. I'm going to grab my favorite M brush by Maxineshka in the number 12 for that, and I'm going to slightly start blending this through the crease. So far this has been quite easy breezy, especially for such a dark shade. To apply and blend out so easily is quite, I don't know, it's quite nice that I don't have to struggle with it. I am a little bit heavy-handed with my eyeshadow application, but this is a little bit how the shade is looking after I used it. So this one has quite some more kick up and fallout in the pan. I'm probably going to go ahead and intensify the outer corner later, but for now I'm going to not apply any more of the matte teal green shade, and I'm going to go into this metallic over here, which is called Riviera, and it is like a satin metallic green teal with a little bit of micro glitters in it. It looks like there's a little bit of pink glitter, and you guys know I like to apply my metallics over a glitter glue, so I'm going to stick to my guns. So I'm going to grab Notoriously Morbid's Shadow Bind and apply a tiny bit of that over my moving lid, all over where I want the metallic teal. Normally I would apply a shade like this with my fingers, so that's what I'm going to do today as well. I'm just going to go into this shade. This is how it looks like straight from the pan, and I'm going to dab that over the glitter glue that we applied earlier. You can clearly see that this formula is not the most glitzy metallic formula out there, but it is a really beautiful color. I think this looks beautiful as it is, but I do want to put something a little bit more glitzy and more glittery on the lid as well, just because that's my personal preference and because I want to try as many shades from this palette as possible. So I am going to spritz a brush, like a flat brush like this one. This one is from M Brush and it's in the number 29, and I am going to apply this topper shade over here, which is called Supernova, which looks like a lavender base with really beautiful like purpley blue glitter in it. So I'm really curious how that's going to play off with the teal shade. So I am going to dip into that shade, then spritz, and then apply onto the lid over top of the teal. I'm going to go back into the matte teal green shade and apply a little bit more of that towards the outer corner just to intensify the green there a little bit. Now, there isn't really a highlighter, like an inner corner highlight shade, one that would truly work for my skin tone. I feel like there's really nothing that's light enough to really brighten up my inner corners. Or at least not that I can see now at first glance, and I really don't want to like put something and then realize it's too dark. So I am going to dip into one of my just face highlighters and apply that on my inner corner. Lately I've really been enjoying doing my winged eyeliner just dry with an eyeshadow. For some reason I never thought that would work for me, but I've really been enjoying it lately and it's been working really well. So that's what I'm going to do today as well. I'm going to take this shade here, the shade Asphalt, which is the matte black shade, on a winged liner brush like this one from Zoeva. With fallout here. I am going to feather the black just lightly to make it even softer. I'm just really enjoying those soft wings lately. Bringing the wing just a tiny bit here into my outer corner of the lower lash line. Just like this, to connect it a little bit, to give it a little bit of that cat eye shape. What am I doing for my lower lash line? I really want to try that other topper shade, the one that's called Genesis, that's next to the Supernova shade. So I'm going to apply a little bit of that over a base. I'm going to grab one of my Kiko long-lasting eyeshadow sticks. This one is in the number 17, which is a dark blue-purple shade. And just apply that in my waterline, and I will smudge it a little bit also on my lower lash line using a tiny brush like this one from Zoeva. And now I'm going to dip into this shade here, which is called Genesis, and it's a beautiful cobalt blue with blue sparkles in it, and I'm going to pop that in my waterline over top of the base and a bit on my lower lash line. Alright you guys, so this is the final look. I really enjoyed how this dark green smoky eye turned out. I did pair it with my Urban Decay lipstick in the shade Ravenswood, which is a gorgeous pinky nude type of shade. And now let's talk a little bit more in detail about the eyeshadow palette itself. The eyeshadow palette comes with 18 eyeshadows, and they come in a variety of finishes. From what I can see, there are 4 very distinct types of finishes in this palette. If you want to have the detailed descriptions of each of the eyeshadows and the finish that it has, Stilazzi has a very good description of each of the colors, but I'm just going to show you the different types of finishes, and then we're going to talk about the color story and how I feel about it overall. So you have 8 mattes in total, so this shade, this one, this one, this one, these two, and oh sorry, this one and this one as well. Then you have what I would call more of like a satin metallic shimmer kind of shade. I wouldn't call it a truly metallic shade, even though they do call them metallic on the website. And that's this one, this shade here, this shade, this shade, this shade, this shade. So they are metallics, but they have very low impact, and they are much more subtle compared to most metallic foiled eyeshadows these days. Now, what I would call the true foiled metallic eyeshadow formula is these 2 eyeshadows over here, the colors Bondi and Barocco. These are the 2 metallics that have a bit more impact to them. The shade Bondi is beautiful, it applies very opaquely. The shade Barocco is more like a topper because it has a little bit more of a sheer base to it, and it's a bit of a duochrome shade. It has like a bronzy and thick gold shift to it. It's really beautiful. And there are 2 topper shades, these 2 here, the shades Genesis and Supernova, which have a very sheer pigment base to them, and they have a lot of glitter, so you can use them as toppers over top of like a variety of the other shades. And these are the swatches of the eyeshadows. You guys know I am like the worst swatcher in the world, but I did my best. And because I ran out of space, I had to swatch the rest of the eye shades on the other side of my arm. I definitely think this is a very well curated, very beautiful eyeshadow palette with solid quality of the eyeshadows. I don't think this is the eyeshadow palette that's going to blow your socks out in terms of like the metallic formula, but I do think that this is a very like solid eyeshadow palette, like a staple, the kind of eyeshadow palette that you can always rely on. It's not the one that's going to make you feel and look super glitzy, but it is the one that's always going to be there for you. I think the mattes in particular are really beautiful quality. They apply very nicely, they blend out very nicely, they feel very soft and creamy. The metallic shades in here, especially like the more satin shimmery metallics, are definitely not what I would call my personal style and what I would normally go for, but I can definitely see where Jordan was going with it, because I feel like a lot of the formulas out there on the market now, the ones that are like really punchy, really metallic, can look really weird if you have more texture on your eyelids. I definitely feel like these are the types of metallics that will work on everyone. I think they're not going to make your eyelids look crappy if you have like somewhat like more mature eyelids, and you definitely have the option of these 2 shades here in case you want something more glitzy, and you have of course the 2 topper shades that you can play around with. So I do feel like it's a very versatile palette, while being firmly grounded in being more neutral and more muted. There is space in everyone's collection for an eyeshadow palette like this. Of course, if you have a lot of these colors, and especially if you are abroad and you're going to have to pay for the ridiculous shipping and custom and import taxes, think about it very carefully whether you really need this eyeshadow palette. I wanted to get this eyeshadow palette, like I said, to mainly support Jordan, but other than that, I'm also really happy with the eyeshadow palette itself, because it is a truly good quality eyeshadow palette that I'm going to get a lot of use out of. I feel like at this point I have not much more to add about this eyeshadow palette. I did enjoy the look that I created with it. I definitely want to play with it a bit more, and definitely want to dip my fingers a little bit more into the neutrals, because I think that the neutrals are also really beautiful, and I want to play a bit around with mixing the neutrals with the colors. So I'm probably going to do a Project 5 wears with this palette, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Let me know whether you got this eyeshadow palette and whether you're considering getting it at some point. I don't know whether it's limited edition and how long it will be around, but I can't imagine it will be around for a very long time. Probably it's like an exclusive thing. So I'm going to wrap up the rambling before my camera decides to overheat and stop recording. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!